We experience many milestones throughout our lives. One of the first happening at just around 2 months old, we smile for the first time. About a few months later, we start taking our very first steps, and then fast forward to about 5 years old. We'll start showing more independence and our interest. These are 3 milestones we all experience. Although we may not be able to recall the very first moments of these milestones, we know we are capable of these actions because we constantly do them. If you ask my teammates, they'll tell you I smile a little bit too much, I constantly speed walk to where I'm going, and that I have really big dreams. We tend to keep track of what we do to see how far along we are in our path of life. Milestones are powerful components because they show key events and map forward movement in our plans. I personally find a lot of our milestones start when we enter high school. This is the time where we start shaping our future, and with a new environment and place for us to be in, it's almost like we can be anything we dream of. Yet the thing about dreams is that we have to undertake this little thing we call responsibility to get there first. I made it my responsibility the first day of freshman year to find my path, and I found it in sports. Whenever we join new things, it takes up a lot of our time and effort, and soccer was my time to be active and make new friends while doing something I really enjoyed. I still remember the feeling of excitement stepping out into the field and getting ready for the big game. Soon enough, the whistle was blew and the ball was kicked, and I quickly looked around to see the ball being played to me. And as I was running up to dribble it down the field, a player from the other team comes on the side of me, and suddenly I'm on the ground. The other thing about our dreams is that we can never truly see the path ahead of us and how everything will turn out. We constantly hit stopping points, and one broken ankle later, I was benched for the rest of the season. My milestone of starting high school heavily relied on joining that sport, but without it, it felt like that milestone had no meaning to me anymore. I tried to do one thing and apparently I can't even do it right. And now I have to watch everybody else do what I can't. It hurts when we're a part of a team and we feel as though we have nothing to contribute to it. We rely so much on getting it right the first time that we feel like failures when it doesn't happen perfectly. And then we watch everyone else do what we can't yet. But many of our first moments growing up didn't happen perfectly on the first try. It took us a while to smile. We never walk on our own without help, and we can never find what's right for us if we're not challenged by it. We're not going to be perfect, just as nobody around us is going to be perfect either. Yet we constantly compare our paths to each other to see who's going to be more successful first. But I'm here to tell you that there is no timeline for our success. Earlier this year, I was asked the question of what is success? And of course, we all know it's not about winning, but giving your best effort to get there. But I brought up the thought, what about the milestones we make when we take that path to success? If milestones are supposed to map forward movement in our plans, then logically, when we hit those stopping points, we're not moving at all. I want you to take a time to think of a moment you hit a stopping point, one that completely ruined or changed your plans. It could have been a time you didn't do so well in the game. Maybe you struggled learning new material. Or hey, maybe even a pandemic showing up and literally stopping our plans. Now think of where you are, what you're doing, and how that stopping point didn't ruin your plans, but instead pushed them in another direction. Instead of getting mapped in the direction we thought we were going to go, we get mapped down a new path. And we call this our path. And even though we try so hard to follow our own paths of life, it's easy to get concerned with the paths that surround us. For example, there was a boy I knew, and he tried hard to be a good player for the football team. I remember I would always see him first one on the field and last one to leave. He knew football was his path because it was something he loved to do. He learned how to make the plays, he practiced constantly, and he always stepped on the field with a good attitude. However, he was always criticized. He made mistakes, and he was down on himself. Because of this, he tried to be more like his other teammates. The logic behind it, if it works for them, then it must work for me to get better, right? But that's not always the case. Classmates compared him to another teammate who was seen as a better version of him. Thoughts of why am I still continuing when I'm still not good enough filled his mind. But that's when he realized we don't share the same solutions to our problems. He then went in a direction that worked for him. He stopped listening to the critics all around him and took in the critiques that made him better instead of putting him down. The first time he gave his 100% at practice, the first time he started in the game, and the first time he made a touchdown. Because he stopped comparing where he was on his path to be a great football player to all of the teammates around him, those milestones he made were a lot more meaningful and contributed to his own path of success. I asked him how he changed himself to be like him instead of improving himself to be like others. He told me one day he realized, I'm good enough in my own path. We adapt to our situations to make them work for us. Just as we don't share the same problems, we may not share the same solutions. So why, when we don't share the same path to success as someone else, our first solution is to take their road just to prove we can outdo or be better or be just like them? But the milestones we make in life aren't just like everyone else's. They are ours. Because that football player embraced his own path, he didn't waste time looking for milestones that were never his to achieve. He didn't waste time looking for moments that were never his to experience. But being in the FFA, we get that same exact feeling, as though we need to share the same accomplishments as well. We all share the majority of our beginning milestones in the FFA with the phrase, when I walked into my ag classroom. And then it quickly turns into us zipping up our first blue jacket, getting ready to compete in our first contest ever, and making that first new friend from a different chapter. We all remember the excitement of waking up early that morning to get on a bus where half the people are already asleep and the girl sitting across from you is already drinking nice coffee. Meanwhile, you're studying your notes even though you spent all last night preparing for this day. Then we get to the contest and we're excited and nervous because we don't know what's going to happen next. Suddenly results are getting called and they call out 4th place and it's not us. Then it's 3rd place, not us again. 2nd place, still not us. 1st place, not us. Then we're looking at somebody else holding that banner we practiced so hard to get. We often think we're not good enough because of those successes we see around us, like a teammate playing the game better or a chapter placing first at a contest. You know, we can be our own worst critics. How can we not? I mean, we share the same milestones growing up. We often think we need to continue this timeline of when to accomplish certain things. But just because someone else is doing great, it doesn't make our experiences worth any less. We may not have placed first, but the milestones of learning from our mistakes, taking responsibility for our actions, and adapting to our situations that we made along the way are going to prepare us for our future. We are on the right track to our own path. What we do does not need to mimic what's around us, but be unique to us. The football player's path to playing college and getting placed first at every contest we compete in may not be the ones for us. But what makes our path so great is not the constant winning, but those milestones we make that lead us closer to our own future successes. The great thing about milestones is that once we do them, we know we're capable of them. The first time I tried to continue playing after I was knocked down, the first time the football player messed up but practiced harder because of it, and the first time you said yes to something in the FFA that you felt like you could have never done before. These are the moments that are not only meaningful when they first happen, but stay meaningful every single time after. Because they are our monumental moments that continually lead us down our own path to success. But in these past few months, that road we travel on can become so unclear. We've missed out on a lot of those milestones we were looking forward to, and just as I said before, it hurts when we feel like we can't contribute to solutions, and that our year doesn't look the same as others before us. But I'm here to tell you that it's okay if our moments get postponed. And it's okay if our moments may look a little differently. Our milestones have no timeline. They happen when it's meant for us to make them. They are unique to us and us only. Just like the first time you smiled, never stop smiling in the face of adversity. From the moments we took our first steps, keep walking to the goals you want to accomplish. And just like the independence and interest we've gained, remember that they are ours individually and not anybody else's. The question I ask is not how successful will we be, but how meaningful will we make our own milestones. It's amazing to look up to people to find where we want to be, but the worst thing we can do is constantly compare ourselves along the way. Because trust me, if we knew right away what our future successes in life were supposed to be, then we would already have them. Louisiana FFA, no matter where you're at in your path of life, you have the complete control to make it unique to you. Create your own timeline of milestones that are meaningful and successful to you and your own path of success.